Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today I have a Q&A episode for you. I'm going to be answering 6 questions that I commonly get. They are, I've hit a plateau in my strength training. What do I do? How long after starting a fitness program will I start seeing results? How can I stay motivated to work out long term? I had a perfect day yesterday. Why did that darn scale go up this morning? What can I do to lose weight quickly? And I'm really busy. How do I make time for my fitness and nutrition? So if any of those sound interesting to you, make sure to stay tuned because I'm going to answer each one of those in detail. And for those who don't know who I am, my name is Luke Briggs. I'm the owner of the Total Life Fitness Academy, where we specialize in helping parents and busy professionals lose body fat, build muscle, and have more energy. I've been a coach for 11 years, and I've worked with nearly 3,000 clients. So the first question that I want to go through is, I've hit a plateau with my strength training. What do I do? So first of all, I want to ask you, have you actually hit a plateau, or are you just being impatient? A lot of times we think we've hit a plateau because we didn't go up in weight 1 or 2 times. That is generally not a plateau. It could have just been, it was an off day. It could have just been that you're not going to go up every single time. Because what I see with a lot of beginners is they'll go up in weight every single time, whether they're doing a barbell lift, whether they're doing dumbbells, whether they're doing cable machines, whatever they're using, they'll go up in weight when they're a beginner or they're coming off a long layoff from training. And as soon as they have a session where they don't go up in weight, they'll think they're at a plateau. But it's not that you're actually at a plateau. It's just that you can only continue to go up so much relative to your maximum ability. So in terms of how fast you can progress, it depends on what type of trainee you are. Are you a beginner? Are you intermediate? Or are you advanced? So I would consider a beginner as someone who can go up in weight every single time, or probably every single workout. An intermediate as someone who can probably progress every week or two, and someone who is more advanced, where you might only be able to progress every month or two in terms of the weight or strength that you are exuding. And we're going to talk about this relative to gym training, but this can also apply to home training as well. And this could apply even if you're doing push-ups or pull-ups, body weight based, or whatever it is. So if you're a beginner, and I classify a beginner as a good thing. It doesn't mean that you've never lifted before. You could have lifted for 20 years and then you took 2 years off, and then you come back, and when you're strength training, you have to start at a lighter weight and build back up. That would be the beginner phase. Whereas someone who's intermediate, you are out of that beginner phase. You're not increasing the weight that you're lifting every single session anymore. Like, for example, if you're doing a barbell back squat and you start at 95 pounds, then the next time you do 100 pounds, and the next time you do 105 pounds, then the next time you do 110 pounds, and you gradually increase the weight every single time, it's going to feel really good, and it's going to feel super motivating because every single time you step into the gym, you're going to be increasing the weight. Whereas once you reach a certain point, let's say you get to 150 pounds on the back squat, and all of a sudden you do it and you don't hit all your reps, you are not in a plateau. You just missed it that time, and you are probably getting closer to your current maximal ability. Now, in order to break through a plateau, there are a number of reasons why a plateau might happen. It could be that you just had an off day if you're considering a plateau one workout, which you shouldn't. It could just be, you're a little bit more fatigued than usual. It could be you need to perfect something with your form. Because a lot of times I see people plateau because they're not maximizing their form. So if you are squatting, but you're just, doing it having never learned to squat before, it's going to be tough to progress unless you increase your skill with the lift. So I'll use myself as an example. I remember when I first actually learned how to bench press, I thought that I was plateaued because I was at, I would constantly go up to 185 pounds for 8 to 10 reps. And then every time I just randomly tried to do a 1 rep max, I would get up to, low to mid 200s. I think, I did 235 once. So I remember that I did a pre-test and a post-test for a 16-week program once. It was the first time I'd actually understood how to properly lift or followed an actual legit program when I was in my early 20s. I remember I hit 215 for my max bench at the beginning. Granted, I think my shoulder was a little sore too. And then I remember I like read this book and it talked about on the bench press how to set up your hands and how you should tuck your elbows in, and making that change and actually lifting with fewer reps but heavier weight more consistently. I ended up continually going up in weight, and I remember by the end of the program I got up to 265, and this is after I'd been bench pressing for years, and I increased 50 pounds in 16 weeks, because I actually learned how to bench press properly and program properly. It wasn't that I was in a plateau, it just was that I wasn't training it properly. So having a proper program can also help. If you're in a plateau, you may not even be following something that is allowing you to get out of that plateau. So ways to break a plateau: you can increase your volume of training, number one. So after a while, like if you're constantly just going and doing the same sets and reps and doing the same amount of work every single workout, you can only go so far until you increase the volume, which is either your sets or reps or weight. Now, you need to let your body know that it can handle more load. It's just like if you're working, like if you're used to working, 5 or 6 hour day, like for example, when you're in college or when you're in high school, like for you, working 20 hours a week is a lot, right? And then as soon as you become an adult, all of a sudden it's like 40 hours a week. And you're like, holy cow, this is an insane amount of work. I've never worked this much in my life. And then, a few years later, all of a sudden you're working, 50, 60 hours a week, and you have kids. And now all of a sudden 40 hours a week doesn't seem like that much. So you have increased your ability to handle more work over time in your life. It's the same thing with your training. Right now, 3 times a week, doing 3 sets of an exercise, a few exercises, might seem like a lot. But if you want to increase your strength, then you need to do more sets, more reps, or more weight. It's going to seem like a lot more at first, but your body will adapt and handle more over time. Then, to a certain point, you can only get so far with your strength before you just need to increase the amount of muscle you have. So if your goal is to increase your strength, you need to build more muscle. Now, you might be like, well, Luke, I don't want to get big and bulky. I don't want to build more muscle. Well, then you might have to settle that you are not going to get that much stronger then. But that might be okay for a lot of people. You can also, as we already alluded to before, you can improve your form. So if your form is poor, just like I talked about on my bench press example, and you improve your form, you might be able to increase the weight. And then the number 4 way is recover harder. The number 4 way that you can bust through a plateau in your strength training is recover harder. So for example, if right now you're only getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep per night, if you go up to 7 or 8 hours per night, you'll probably be more recovered, and your strength will probably increase just because you are more recovered every single workout. You can also decrease your overall life volume, quote unquote. So if you have a lot of stress, like if you're training hard, but then you also have a ton of stress at work, ton of stress at home, a bunch of other demands in your life, you are constantly wired, you're on the go, you're in that fight or flight, sympathetic stress state, you are going to have a tougher time increasing your strength because you have so much life volume going on. And for some of you, that might just be the way it is. So then you need to shift your expectations as far as the amount of weight that you can lift, because you can only do so much at your current ability to recover. So if you hit a plateau with your training, those are a number of ways that you can break through. You can increase the volume of your training, your sets, reps, or weight. So for example, if you're currently doing, 3 sets of 10 dumbbell bench press, you can do 4 sets of 10 dumbbell bench press. You can do, 4 sets of 6 or 4 sets of 8. You can rotate the reps and increase your strength that way. You can also gain muscle mass, you can improve your form, and you can recover harder. Second question that I want to answer today is, how long after starting a fitness program will I begin to see results? First of all, we need to identify what results are you referring to. Now, many people who are listening to this are probably referring to weight loss. And if we're talking about weight loss, it depends on where you're starting from. So if you've already been dieting a lot and you've been in a calorie deficit for a while, you are not going to lose weight as rapidly as someone who has just been eating whatever they want, probably been eating way too much, and then they start by decreasing their calories or following a dietary protocol, and lo and behold, they start dropping weight because of where they are starting from. So in terms of how soon after starting a fitness program will you start seeing results, it completely depends on where you start from. And it's the same thing with your strength, as we just alluded to before. If you're a complete beginner with your strength, or you are coming off of a long layoff, then you can see increases in your strength a lot faster than if you are someone who is a more advanced lifter or more advanced trainee. Even if you don't lift a ton of weight, like if you've been training at home for a while, it might be harder because you have gotten closer to your maximum capacity. So you need to shift your expectations for that. So you have to identify, first of all, where are you along that spectrum? So let's say you are a beginner, or you're someone who's just eating a ton of calories, you're not working out. In general, we want to aim for about 0.5% to 1% of body weight loss per week. Now, let's say you are a 200-pound individual, so you could lose 1 to 2 pounds a week on average over the course of like a 4-week phase. So you might lose anywhere from like 4 to 8 pounds. I would say for most people, maybe it's 6 to 8 pounds. So especially in the beginning, what's going to happen is you're going to lose more weight just because you're probably bloated, you probably were eating way too much, and you're going to lose a lot of water weight. Like I've seen people lose, 8 pounds in their first week, and they're like, holy cow, every time I step on the scale, I'm down. And then they expect it to be like that all the time, and it's not always going to be like that. So for example, I've told this numerous times in the podcast before, but when I first had my father start on a weight loss protocol, he actually lost 32 pounds in 7 weeks and 5 days. So in 54 days, he was losing like almost a pound a day at certain times. But I can guarantee it was because he was probably eating like 5,000 calories a day. And my dad might be listening to this as well, and he can attest to it. So the faster you lose weight, that means you're probably way overeating relative to what you're eating right now. If you are someone who's more advanced, like for you, losing like 0.5% per week might be more doable. So like if you're someone who's 150 pounds and you want to get down to like 130 pounds, you might lose like 0.75 pounds a week on average. So like over the course of a month, you might lose 3 pounds. And you might be like, well, why is this person losing, 8 pounds a month and I'm only losing 3 pounds a month? Well, you're starting from a different spot. So if you're not losing between 0.5% and 1% of body weight per week, first of all, you probably aren't actually taking in what you think you are, or you are not actually in a calorie deficit. A lot of times people think that they're actually eating in a calorie deficit, but they just need to decrease their calories further. Or a lot of times people think that they're actually eating fewer calories than they actually are because they didn't track that handful of nuts that they grabbed, or they didn't track that extra bite that they grabbed off of their kid's plate. There are a number of reasons why you might not be seeing progress as fast as you want. But in terms of weight loss, how soon should you start seeing results? I would say like if you're kind of starting from a beginning phase, I mean, as long as you're following the plan, like within the first couple of weeks, you should start seeing some weight loss. What ends up happening is when you start a calorie intake, it's your best educated guess because you don't actually know what your BMR is. You don't actually know what your rate of burning is for right now of the calories because you have no data to back it up. So what I do is if you're starting in a deficit, just find a calorie calculator. You can use the Mifflin equation. That is a common one. You can use the Harris-Benedict equation. That's another common one. And you can just find based on your activity level, your height, age, weight, gender, what an approximate amount would be. And then just go with that amount, see where it gets you. If you're not seeing results and you are not losing weight, decrease your calories a little bit further. All right, third question. How can I stay motivated to work out long term? When you first start a program, you're always all gung-ho, right? You're like, oh, this is great. I'm feeling really good. I'm losing weight. I'm making progress. I'm sweating for the first time in a while. This feels really good. But then all of a sudden, life happens. You get busy. You miss a workout. It's tempting to miss a second workout. So how do you stay motivated to work out long term? There are several factors. In my opinion, the biggest factor is your environment. Your environment, who and what you're surrounded by. If you are constantly surrounded by naysayers, that includes people as well, who are just like, don't worry about working out today, or they're not working out themselves, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to not work out. Now, if you are surrounded by people who also work out, then it's going to be easier for you to work out. And that applies to your community as well. So like, for example, inside our Total Life Fitness program, the environment works really well because people have access to coaches, they have access to our community, so they constantly see like other people working out. The coaches are checking in on them to make sure they're working out, so the environment is conducive for them to continue to work out in terms of the people who they're surrounded with. Whereas if you are just doing it on your own, your family doesn't work out, your friends don't work out, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. It's going to be harder and harder the farther in you get if you don't have that support around you. So that's why I firmly believe that you should surround yourself, join a community, find friends, family, whoever it is, who are also working out, and keep each other accountable so you can stay motivated because you're surrounded by other people who are also on the same journey as you. Environment also pertains to setting up your environment to make it easy to work out. So to make the behavior of working out easier over time, you need to make sure that it is simple to work out. So for example, if you don't have your workout area set up at home, which I've talked to clients before where they're like, well, I don't really have like a workout area at home where I can, work out, then what's going to end up happening is you're going to get up, you're going to be like, oh, where should I work out today? I don't know. And then you just don't work out. Or you wake up, you have the best intentions to work out. We've probably all been there. And you're like, oh, where are my shoes? Oh, where's my water bottle? Oh, where's my towel? Oh, where's my workout equipment? Oh, this is too hard. I'm just gonna not work out. So you want to make sure that it's easy to work out. So make sure the night before that you already have your clothes laid out, or maybe you just sleep in your clothes that you're going to work out in, and all you have to do is just get up and work out. Make sure that your equipment is already set up if you're working out from home. If you're working out at the gym, make sure your gym bag is already packed. Your shoes are in there. Whatever other workout gear you need, your water bottle, your keys are right there. So that all you have to do is just get up, you grab your bag, you get in your car, you drive to the gym, and there you go. So environment is so crucial. If you want to stay motivated, you need to make your environment conducive with both the physical environment around you and the people you're surrounded with. And that also applies to the ideas that you're surrounded with as well. If you are following people who work out on social media like Instagram or something like that, or YouTube, and you're constantly watching other people who are working out, then that just seems like more of the norm to you. You're going to want to follow what other people are doing. Whereas if you're watching people, you're reading comments online about how people are constantly stuffing their face, skipping workouts, drinking themselves to death, whatever it is, then you are going to be more likely to do that as well, because that is those are the ideas that you're surrounding yourself with. So think about right now, if you're listening to this, what is your environment like at home? Are you setting yourself up for success right now? What are one or two things that you need to change? And go change them. And remember as well, you're not always going to feel motivated. You just need to do it anyways. Because motivation comes after you start. Like when you first start working out, you generally don't feel always motivated right away to work out. But once you build momentum, once you start seeing progress, once you get you string a few days together of working out, you always want to keep working out because you know how it feels. It's the same thing. Like you don't always feel motivated to start your workout in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening whenever you are working out. But usually once you get to the gym or once you start working out, you're like, oh, this feels pretty good now. And then you just keep working out. Fourth question I want to go through is one that I hear all the time, which is, I had a perfect day yesterday. Why did that darn scale go up this morning? I had a perfect day yesterday. Why did that darn scale go up this morning? Every single person listening to this has had that happen. You're just like, there's no way I didn't lose weight today. And then you step on the scale and it's up. So first of all, this is why we track weight daily, or at least 3 times a week, which we have our clients inside our Total Life Fitness Academy do. Because you're going to have fluctuations day to day, and it's due to a number of the factors that I'm going to talk about. Also, are you actually weighing yourself in the same conditions every day? What we have our clients do in the Total Life Fitness Academy is they weigh themselves first thing in the morning, before they eat or drink anything, and after they go to the bathroom. And then they weigh themselves either naked or in underwear. That way the variable is always the same. Because I see a lot of people who will weigh themselves, at night wearing a sweatshirt sometimes, and then they'll weigh themselves in the morning, and then they'll weigh themselves in the middle of the day. Sometimes they're wearing shoes, sometimes they're not wearing shoes. And if the variable is always different, you could be off by like 5 pounds. Like you can gain like 3, 4, 5 pounds in a day. And then especially if like the end of the night, you're wearing shoes or you're wearing a sweatshirt or you're wearing a heavier shirt or you're wearing pants, whereas you weren't wearing that the other time you weighed, it's going to be a lot different because of the weight of all your clothes and the fact that you have all this food now in your stomach. So make sure you always weigh yourself under the same conditions. Now, if you had a quote unquote perfect day yesterday and you still gained weight, you could have excess sodium. Maybe you ate more sodium than usual. It's just water weight. Maybe you ate more carbs than usual. Again, just water weight. Maybe you are quote unquote backed up. You haven't gone to the bathroom yet. Number 2. So maybe you have more stuff in there. Maybe you just pounded a bunch of water. I was just watching an Instagram video of this guy saying, one of these influencers who I follow, long-term fitness coach, was saying, watch me gain a pound in 30 seconds. And he stepped on the scale, and he stepped off the scale, and then he chugged like a 20-ounce thing of water, and then he stepped back on the scale, and lo and behold, he had gained a pound. So your hydration status matters. The fact of whether or not you have gone to the bathroom matters. If you're a woman, it could be your time of the month. You are also having water weight from that. It could be if you trained yesterday and you're super sore. You could have inflammation. If you're not sleeping well, if you have a lot of stress in your life, it could be water weight. But just remember that fat gain happens very slowly over time, or fat loss happens very slowly. So like if you are like one day you're 150 pounds and the next day you're 153 pounds, you didn't just gain 3 pounds of fat in a day unless you overate by 10,500 calories the day before, because you need to eat in excess. You need to eat 3,500 calories to gain a pound of fat, over 3,500 calories over what your maintenance is. Whereas as long as you're like I said, basically just expect the scale to fluctuate from day to day. Like if you go in and expect it to stay the same every single day, you're kidding yourself. Also, one thing that you want to factor in as well is that food labels can be off by up to 20%. So like if you're eating different foods every single day, your calories could vary as well, because you might be taking in different amounts. That's why I personally eat virtually the same thing every day, and my weight actually does stay pretty similar because the variable is always the same. Whereas a lot of people I know, the variable is always changing. Like maybe you're eating out sometimes and you're just estimating when you're at this restaurant. Like, oh, I think this is about X number of calories, whereas it could be completely different. You're like, I thought this was 600 calories, but in reality, it could have been like 1,200 calories. You have no idea. You didn't know about that extra sauce that they added. You didn't know about the fact that they, sauteed it in olive oil. There are all different factors that go into it. So that's why, number one, you need to weigh yourself daily or at least 3 times a week and always weigh yourself under the same conditions. And then focus on consuming the same amount of food every single day to isolate a variable, see if it works. And then over time, you might have days where you're up, you might have days where you're down, but it's more about the trends over time. I always tell people inside our program, we use data, not drama, to make decisions when making changes. And that is an example right there. Next question I want to go over is, what can I do to lose weight quickly? You're like, I have a vacation coming up. I have a family photo shoot. I have my 20th year reunion, whatever it is. And you want to look your best for it. You're like, crap, I got 6 weeks. I got to lose 20 pounds. How do I get this weight off quick? Well, you certainly could get it off quick. But the question is, do you want to lose weight quickly? Or do you want to lose weight permanently? Now, if you want to lose weight quickly, there are definitely things you can do. I mean, you can severely undereat, like instead of being in a 500 calorie per day deficit, which generally is recommended to lose about a pound a week, because 500 times 7 is 3,500, and you need to be in about a 3,500 calorie deficit in a week to lose a pound. Some people might go into like 1,000 calorie a week deficit where they're trying to lose 2, 3, 4 pounds a week. You could do that for a while, but eventually your body's going to need more fuel. So I want to look at BMR. Like, something that we haven't talked about on this episode yet is your basal metabolic rate. So let's say, for example, you are a 40-pound male. You are 5'10", and you are 200 pounds. According to the Mifflin equation, your BMR, or your basal metabolic rate, is 1,823 calories. That's obviously an estimate. It could be off. That is how many calories your body needs just to function. If you were to do nothing else other than just exist, for your brain function, for digestion, for respiration, like that's what your body needs just to exist. If you're sedentary with little or no exercise, according to the Mifflin equation, you need 2,188 calories in a day. So if you're giving yourself like 1,200 calories in a day, you are severely undereating, and you're not even giving your body long-term enough to function. Now, you can get away with it in the short run, but long-term, your body's going to fight back, be hungry, it's going to be fatigued, you're going to lose strength, there are going to be so many negative consequences long-term, and then you're just going to end up, binging, just eating everything in sight because you want to have your body feel better. So that's why it is not a good idea long-term to be in an extreme deficit like that. So you need to be okay with losing weight at a quote-unquote slower pace, maybe a pound or 2 a week. But think about it. Like, let's say you want to lose, 30 pounds. Like, everyone's trying to lose 30 pounds in the next 90 days. But think about it. If you lost 30 pounds, if you lost 1 pound a week for the next 30 weeks, and you actually kept it off, wouldn't that be better than losing 30 pounds in 10 or 12 weeks? But then you just rebound and gain it back because you starved yourself to get there? Think about the long term. When you lose weight quickly, your body does not like that. So it fights back against you. Whereas if you do it in a sustainable manner, it's going to be easier for your body to deal with. And then 1 year, 2 years, 5 years from now, you're going to be in a much better spot. Last question I want to go through on this episode is probably one of the most common questions I get, which is, I'm really busy. How do I make time for my fitness and nutrition? Like, where am I supposed to find time to work out? How am I supposed to prep my meals? First of all, I get it for a lot of you, right? Like, you have kids' activities every single night. You're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. You have all the household duties. You have all these responsibilities. It's like, where is the time supposed to come from? And I think that it starts with, if this is truly important to you, you're like, I need to get healthy now, because if I don't take care of my health, 5-10 years from now, I could end up with type 2 diabetes or other risk factors for diseases. Or maybe you had a family member who passed away at an early age, or whatever the reason is, right? But usually you have a reason why you want to make changes. And it's better to be proactive about it versus reactive. Because if you wait until it's too late, you wait until you get diagnosed with prediabetes, you wait until you get diagnosed with a health condition, then it's gonna be harder. That's why I'm a huge fan of preventative medicine, which is why I do what I do, which is we are fitness and nutrition coaches, because we are kind of the front line of healthcare. If you want to reduce your risks, get stronger, lose weight, have better health markers. So first of all, it comes down to, if you feel like you're really busy right now and you want to figure out how to make time, you need to identify what your priorities are in life. And usually this will solve it right here. Because usually you have too many priorities. You're like, I'm on the board of directors for this charity. I'm also volunteering at my kid's school. I'm also running another program for my kids. I'm also doing a weekly girls' night out. I'm also doing you're also involved in a fantasy sport, several fantasy sports leagues, whatever it is, right? Like, you have so many things going on. It's just hard to pull yourself out, because you're like, where am I supposed to find the time? In addition to working 50, 60 hours a week, I also have all these other commitments. So you need to really ask yourself, what are your actual priorities? I remember a couple of years ago, this was just when I had one kid. By the time this podcast comes out, I'll probably have 3 kids. We're about to have our 3rd child. I really realized that if I want to get the results that I wanted in a couple of areas of life, I need to really hammer down on my priorities. And I identified what those priorities were for me. And they were my health and fitness routines, my family, and my business. Anything else that's asked of me that's reoccurring in nature is a no for now. It's not a no forever, but in this season of life, it's a no. So for example, like, if I'm asked to be, in another fantasy football league, it's a no. If I'm asked to be in a book club, it's a no. These are both things that I enjoy doing. I love reading books, especially personal development books. I love playing fantasy football, but that's just going to take more time away from me doing what I need to do to be successful in those other areas. So you need to really prioritize. And for some of you, you're like, well, Luke, how am I supposed to give up all these activities with my kids? I'm not giving that up. I'm not saying you have to give those things up, but there are probably things in your life that you're doing right now. It could be scrolling on your phone for 30 minutes before you go to bed every night. It could be you're watching an hour of Netflix. It could be you're hitting snooze 3 times in the morning. There are probably things that you're doing currently right now where you can better optimize your time. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. In fact, literally yesterday, as I'm recording this, I was literally just thinking to myself, I just wasted like the last 30 or 45 minutes because I got sidetracked, right? Like, it happens to all of us. The fact of the matter is, you need to start taking things away, though, that are not conducive to your goals. And that starts with having a plan. So you probably have a plan for, like, I know when I need to drop my kids off, when I need to pick them up from their sports activities. I know when I'm starting work. I know when I'm finishing work. I know when I'm volunteering, like you probably already have your day planned out. Now you just need to add your fitness stuff in there. You need to put your workouts in like they're an appointment. So no one can schedule over them. So at maybe 6 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. or maybe over the lunch hour for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever it is, that is your reoccurring meeting for yourself to work out. And no matter what comes up, you can't reschedule it. That's why typically for busy parents and professionals, I recommend getting it done earlier in the day, because then fewer things can come up later in the day, because no matter how good of intentions you have, something inevitably comes up. Now, with that being said, I do know a number of people inside our program who work out at night and can do it consistently and like doing that. And if you can be consistent with it, by all means, do that. But you need to have a plan for your day. And then if your goal is weight loss, which most people listening to this podcast, that is generally the goal, or fat loss, then nutrition is way more important than your workouts. I'm not saying workouts aren't important, but you need to be in a calorie deficit. So you need to actually plan out what you're eating. Grab a food tracker, MyFitnessPal, Fat Secret, whatever app it is, pre-log your food for the next day that has you hitting that calorie target. And then you already know going into the day what you're going to have for the next day. So instead of just waking up and saying like, oh, let me just throw some breakfast together, and then you're like, lunch, oh crap, I forgot lunch, I'm gonna have to stop somewhere. And then dinner comes up, you're like, oh crap, I don't have anything ready, let's grab a frozen pizza. If that's happening to you all the time, it's because you're not planning. Have a plan. Nutrition and fitness are significantly more challenging if you don't plan. Let me repeat that. Fitness and nutrition are significantly more challenging if you don't have a plan. If you're just winging it day to day, you're going to find yourself struggling. Now, if you want the opposite of that, if you want it to feel easier, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but easier, then you need to make sure that you know when those things are happening. When are you getting your groceries? How are you getting your groceries? When are you meal prepping? When are you eating? How can you make it easier for yourself to meal prep? Maybe you get a meal delivery service meal once a day or a few times a week. Maybe you go to Costco and get prepackaged foods. Whatever it is, make it simple for yourself by planning. So hopefully this has been helpful and you got those questions answered for yourself. If you have a question yourself that you would like answered on a future podcast, I invite you to email me, luke@lukebriggsfitness.com. You can also find me on Facebook, shoot me a message, find me on Instagram @lukebriggsfitness, shoot me a message, and we'll definitely come out with more of these Q&A type episodes in the future. Make sure if you haven't already to give this show a 5-star rating if you think it's worth it, and write a review, because that helps us grow and reach more people. Until next time, chat soon.